Smooth jams.
Yeah, or be in an elevator. What? Yeah.
Normally, a lot of times lately, we've been doing the rock out. So it's like, bam, bam, bam.
Yeah,
So
get everyone. Yeah, that was a smooth intro. Smooth
that
intro.
was smooth. That was fun. Well, welcome, one and all, to another fantastic episode of the Wise Agent Society's Sharpen the Saw. I almost forgot what show we're doing. Today, we have the lovely and professional Margo Smith on our show to share with us all of her knowledge, coming straight long time far away from Las Vegas, Nevada. It's not far away for some people. A lot of people are there. Far away from me. So welcome, Margo. Thank you so much for coming to the show today.
Thank you for having me. I can't wait to have a great discussion with you and talk about all things real estate and help whoever we can here.
Yeah, I love it. This is a really fun show. I like this. You know, we have two shows. So this one we're talking about, and I think today we're going to talk about, correct me if I'm wrong, about kind of how to stay relevant in this market and maybe even how to maintain and retain agents if you have a team or a brokerage. Does that sound right?
Yeah. And I think I'd also, if we have a minute, we can fit it in. I do want to talk to people who may be thinking about getting into real estate or who are career changing professionals, because as we'll get into probably, I'm sure shortly here, you know, I had a whole career teaching for 15 or 16 years before I got into real estate. So I really would like to offer some encouragement and some words of wisdom to people who have also maybe switched careers and they feel like they're late to this game, which, you know, I definitely can resonate with that, and offer some advice and be like, you know what, you can still do this.
You know, I love it. And yes, we will definitely cover that. So maybe we'll start real quick with, and we'll get right into it, though, how we know each other. So we know each other from Las Vegas. We were in the same office at Keller Williams in Keller Williams VIP. And that's how we met. And I think actually one of the first times, at least that we hung out, we were at a family reunion in Dallas.
I think so. Yeah. I do remember I was doing a training at the Keller Williams office. And after the training, you came up and you were like, whoa, where did you come from? How? Because I think you had been around that office for a while, honestly.
Yeah. Well, I was at Debbie Zoist's office for a long time before that. And then when Dale moved out there, then I moved out with Dale. And I don't think I even lived there maybe at the time.
I don't think you were
probably in San Diego.
Yeah, I think you were living out of state. Your name was definitely still tossed around. Obviously, you had a very extensive career there. And I just remember after the training, you came up to me and you were like, how did we find you? How come you haven't been doing these trainings for years? And I was like, I literally just got into real estate. And you were like, what? That's crazy. But I
do remember that. I do remember that.
Compliment. Yeah, I took that as a very high compliment coming from you.
Yeah, and it was a cool that training area right there was really cool. So I went to multiple trainings at that place for different things, and I was impressed to see somebody that I didn't know up there handling it like a boss. It was really cool.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Good times. Good times at the Keller Williams office.
There was. I've always had lots of good times. I've worked out of 7 different ones. So there's been a lot of cool things to pull out of all of those. But I do remember that when we were hanging out in Dallas, it was kind of more of a party, crazy night. And what were we doing? We were clown car in it in somebody's SUV with a ton of people in it. It was pretty fun. A little out of control.
It was fun.
Yeah. So cool. So that's how we met. And then Margo and I have been friends ever since. I know she's an amazing coach and she cares deeply about seeing other people succeed and helping other people succeed. And not only in real estate, but she's also very passionate about helping people around the world. And so she has a lot to, and I wouldn't even do it justice talking about all of the places you've been. She travels a lot. You also have a business in Thailand, right?
Yep, I do.
So why don't you go ahead and just tell us a little bit about where you've been as far as that stuff goes, and then we'll transition into what got you into real estate.
So I have been running a tour business in Thailand for probably 13 years. It'll tie back into the story. I was a teacher previously. And so just really as a way to make extra money, I decided to, and I'd been living overseas. I'd lived overseas. So I speak Thai, was very familiar with the country, and then realized that a lot of people like to go to Thailand. So while I was living in Thailand, to be honest with you, it's almost like living in Las Vegas. Like somebody finds out I live in Las Vegas and they're like, 15 years, I'm coming to Vegas. And I'm like, great, come down. You know, Bangkok has a very similar vibe. Wow. So yeah, while I was living in Bangkok, a couple groups of friends were like, hey, you're living in Bangkok. Can I come visit? I'm like, yeah, come on down. And, it didn't take very long for me to realize like, wow, if my friends want to come, maybe other people want to come. So yeah, I've been running that business for about 13 years.
Wow. 13 years. I know it'd been a long time, but I didn't really realize it was 13 years.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. It's super fun. So open invite.
Well, for me, I hope you're saying, and thank you. And I want to go.
Yes, definitely.
And then also, I didn't know all these times we've talked that you actually speak Thai.
I do speak Thai.
I didn't know that. That's cool.
No.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
so how did you learn that? Did you take like formal schooling for that? Or?
Yeah, so I spent some time over there teaching and doing some volunteer church work as well. So I ended up being there for almost 3 years in Thailand, and then another year in Laos teaching at a Montessori school. So I actually speak Thai and Laotian. Laos is just a little less known, but yeah, I do speak Thai fluently. And yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, I'm a language guy myself, so that really resonates with me.
What do you speak? I didn't know you spoke another language.
I speak fluent Spanish, and I have for a long time.
Bueno.
But I also remember things like language I just remember. So like I remember Russian I took in 2nd grade. Privyet, меня зовут Vasya, как тебя зовут? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Little things I remember of other languages, but I speak Spanish. I almost took a job in Mexico working for Applebee's, the Mexican branch. Like I'd be paid in pesos and everything.
Wow.
To help grow Applebee's around Mexico. And I met Jen right before I was about to go. So I didn't go.
Plans foiled. I think that's that's awesome. I've actually been doing Spanish on Duolingo.
Oh, cool.
I obviously keep up my Thai because I have my business in Thailand, but it's not useful on an everyday basis like Spanish would be here.
Yeah.
I do appreciate that. I think what I have found from a real estate perspective, so anybody else out there that does speak a second language, I think one really powerful lesson that can come from learning how to speak another language or even trying is very similar to real estate in the matter of connection. Mm-hmm. Like when you can speak somebody else's language, it means a lot to the person. Yeah. And that has really transferred over into real estate. Like for all people lead generating, going into situations where they are meeting new people. And a lot of times agents make that conversation about themselves. What am I going to say? How am I going to do it? And turning that into like we would with another language, asking about them and really keeping it client focused. So I have found that skill transfer to be very, very helpful in terms of a skill. Like what can I learn from this and take into my career, in order to make it a little more profitable. So.
Yeah, I love it because you're right. So over my years of speaking Spanish with people, which they're usually blown away because a white boy like me just busts it
they're
out.
Like, really. El jefe gringo, look at.
Yeah, I'm like, yo soy albino mexicano oaxaqueño. No puedo ayudarme porque mi piel no sirve. ¿Qué puedo hacer? And they're just like, what? But like the thing is that they appreciate that I take time to understand their culture and their needs and wants. And they're just like, wow. So, I mean, the connection is deep. And you're right that just even having that interest in somebody and what it is they're passionate about or their country or their culture or the way they do things, people really like to be appreciated.
Definitely. Absolutely.
So, yeah. So cool. So you have had your business there. You were a teacher before or during that time. So what made the transition to real estate? Like, how did that come about?
Yeah, thanks for asking. It was actually kind of unfortunate, to be honest with you. So, and this story, I think a lot of people, as I've told the story over the years and how I got into real estate, it really resonates with a lot of people. So, and again, like if you have been thinking about a career change and even like deeper than the career change, it really comes down to your own personal development, in my opinion, because all these years when I started teaching, I worked in I graduated from college, I worked in international marketing, which did take me back to Thailand for a little bit. And when I got back to America, my mom was actually a school teacher. And I just remember thinking like summer's off, don't have, it was really just like, how can I not work as much as possible? But entrepreneurship was not a conversation I had with anybody. I definitely wasn't familiar with it. I graduated in linguistics and then got an MBA. So it wasn't really, like entrepreneurship. It was more like follow the steps of go to college, get a job, stay there for a long time. And so I started teaching, which was great. It did allow me to travel to Thailand during the summer. And of course I had holidays off, but when I started teaching, I wanted to do it the best that I could. So I took the personal development side of teaching very seriously, in terms of like, here are 30 kids. What is in store for these guys? And typically I worked at fairly disadvantaged schools. And so these were kids situations like, did they come without breakfast? Were their parents not home this morning? They're picking up other brothers and sisters, people in and out of jail, were, really, really kind of hard situations for kids. And here they come showing up every single day. So I took the responsibility of saying, like, how can I be a positive influence? If I'm only going to have 50 minutes in this classroom, how can we make it the very best that we can make it? And that it literally changed, I think, my career in teaching. I was really, so once other teachers saw how I was running my classroom, the amount of kids I sent to the office was extremely low. We did a lot of problem solving and communicating in class. And so then the teachers were like, how are you doing this? Which really put me in a position to start training other teachers of classroom management. It was really less about like, are you a good math teacher? And it was more about, there's a famous quote that goes around that says, kids don't know how much you care until they won't listen and tell you how much they care. I just totally botched that lady's quote, but I took that very, very serious. Yeah.
And it's true.
What was that?
And it's true.
Yeah.
Like if you get a connection with a student, then I know as a student for myself, like when the teachers took time to connect with me, then I was way more engaged.
Yeah. And you're listening. And these guys came from pretty, what we would really consider adverse circumstances. And so, I would think to myself a lot of times, like, what if I was the only person to say something nice to this student today? And so it was awesome. And I think, after 5 or 6 years of doing that, I don't want to say like I had mastered it, because I do always believe in like a growth mindset. There were definitely things I could tweak and make better, but I really started feeling like something else was out there for me. And I was afraid, really, is what it came down to. And, at the time, and I still am, which I think, plays into the situation a little bit. Like, I'm single, I don't have any kids. So for me, thinking about making a career change when my finances, teachers are not paid great, as we all know. And I did not have a large savings. I was, renting, and I was still traveling a ton. And that's where most of my money was going to, were those two things, just, eating and traveling and then living. Right.
Yeah.
So for me to be like, okay, I have to save money for a year. Then what am I going to career transition to? It was so far out of my realm of thinking.
Yeah.
Additionally, another limiting mindset besides fear, which I think a lot of people could connect with,
100%.
is, and I'm fine saying this because it is what it is, but as I got older and I started seeing my friends make more and more money, and I was making more money, I started to tell myself like I was a person that couldn't make $100,000 a year. It was like, I would look at my friends, and even though I knew their situations, it's not like anybody I knew was a trust fund baby or coming from money. That wasn't the situation. But I was like, oh, I picked the wrong career. I don't want to go into administration. I can't do this. And I remember there were a couple of years where I was teaching aerobics in the morning. So I'd get up like at 5 o'clock in the morning and go teach a couple of aerobics classes at the local gym. I would go to school and teach the kids. And then I was working at a Thai restaurant, 3 or 4 nights a week, and on the weekends.
This is in Vegas?
It's actually in St. George, Utah.
Oh, St. George. Cool.
Yeah, not too far. And I was, at that time, my grandmother had just passed away, which is why I'd moved there. My grandpa was living by himself, and he was like, whatever, a lot of circumstances, but I was living with my grandfather also at the time. And for those like 4 or 5 years, I was working 3 jobs, and I never broke $100,000.
Wow. Yeah.
And so I had literally convinced myself that I wasn't, it just like, it happens to certain people, but it would not happen to me. And I, that is such an important story, because if you're in a situation where you're not making the money that you want to make, the story that I told myself, which was that I can't do it, and you probably other people out there have also told themselves that, it was just not true. So fast forward, I had been teaching, I was doing all these other things. I wanted to do other things, but I didn't have a plan, or there just were a lot of gaps missing, until, of course, there was a situation that happened with myself and an administrator where I literally had to quit. It was actually, if I can say it, it was a sexual harassment situation. I'd never experienced that before. It was his word against my word. It got escalated. This whole big thing happened. And this was when I was like 39, I'm 45 now at the time of this recording. I think this was when I was like 39. And I remember just thinking to myself, like, I would rather be unemployed and have to figure this out than have somebody attack my character and think that I'm not a good person because I am a good person. And so I quit. I just quit.
100%. Sorry that you had to go through that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And it's just something recently, because a lot of people have asked why, but I just was always so embarrassed to say that, but it is what it is. Right. So I left teaching, and of course I shouldn't say of course, but like it was comfortable living overseas. I had a small amount of savings. I had already been volunteering for a nonprofit that worked out of Africa. So I quit teaching, and then I moved to Africa for a year in Zambia.
Oh yeah, because I've seen photos and stuff of that. And recently, you shared some memories.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Cool. I didn't even know about that part. I knew about Thailand, but I didn't know about Africa.
Yeah, so I've been volunteering with that organization for probably like 7 or 8 years, I want to say. So I went to Africa. When I got back to America, I did not have a job. I was almost 40, I think, or maybe I was 40. I was living in a friend's casita, bless their heart, because I had literally nowhere to live. And I remember calling my parents at 40 years old and saying, I don't have a job. I literally don't have anywhere to live. And of course, I mean, my parents are so fantastic, but like any parent, they're like, well, why did you put yourself in this? Why didn't you just keep teaching? And I couldn't, I couldn't. So I was at I was at a really low spot, So,
I've had a similar circumstance, just so you know.
Did you?
It was in my 20s, but I remember like laying on my mom's floor, just like, I don't know what to do with my life. And I just don't know, and she was just super encouraging. Like, well, let's figure it out. I had 2 cars break down, like totally. I didn't have a car anymore.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'll give you my car. You can just have it. Go to Salt Lake City. So I moved to Salt Lake City for a couple of years, like on a whim. We talked about it until we figured it out. But I know what that feels like, is what I'm saying, is where
and a lot of people do. And I tell this story because again, it's the connection part of it. Like, there were feelings inside of me, like I could do something better than teach, but I was scared. And additionally, for me being single, like I've never been married, I don't have any kids. And so a lot of people go into these situations, which is great, to have another person say, hey, I can pick up the slack a little bit here while you're trying to figure things out. I didn't have that luxury. Like, this was me by myself. So for all the single people out there, I get it. And then there's another added layer of, single people who are divorced or separated and also have kids to worry about. It is a very scary place to be in. And it was scary for myself. And I didn't have another life to take care of, like just survival for myself. So I decided at that point that I was really going to build my tie business. I was like, you know what? I've never built this tie business. I was doing it. I think this is going to be my new thing. I just committed to going to networking events. I was like, you know what? I just got to start going places and tell people I own a tie business, and hopefully they'll want to go to Thailand. That was my bet. And during that process, I met a couple of guys who I actually started talking to one woman's wife at this networking event. And she was like, what do you do? And I was like, oh, I have this business to Thailand. If you have like reward trips, family trips, like really selling it that way. And she was like, oh, my husband owns this real estate industry brokerage thing. Do you want to talk to him? Maybe they do trips like that. I was like, absolutely. So I started speaking with him. I'm like, Thailand, boom, on my game, selling it. This is the thing. Here's my Instagram. Let's take a reward trip to Thailand. And then he was like, is this what you do full time? And I was like, yeah, definitely. I mean, I was so broke. He was like, have you ever thought about selling real estate? I was like, if this dude knew my situation, he would not be asking me that question. Like, what am I going to tell him? Hey, I've never owned a home. I am 40 years old. Like, what does he think is going to happen? You know what I mean? Like, just to get so many just misconceptions, again, that I hope people are taking from this and saying, wow, Margo felt like that, then I can build from this too. But as you can see, as we're here now, right? Like, I just took the leap. I did not have another option. So I was like, whatever. Sell real estate, I guess. I don't know anything about houses. Didn't know anything about the process.
Boom, you're a realtor now.
Boom. And then, the first year, I think that was the frustrating thing, is they sat in this office. I remember going to the meeting and they were like, you're definitely going to clear $100,000 a year. I remember looking at them and I was like, if these dudes know I was grinding at 80, 90 hours a week, never broke $100,000, and they're sitting, oh, stay in the office, make some calls, you can make $100,000. I was like, they're so dumb.
But that brings up a good point, because when you're talking about your $100,000 money mindset, bad, and then these guys are like, And I had that epiphany too, kind of. And well, I when I got into real estate and I got successful, I'm telling everybody, hey, you need to quit your job and come sell real estate. It's like printing money, but that is not always the case. Just so you know, I learned that the hard way. It is a lot of hard work, and there are things that you have to master, some skills that you have to have and develop. But it's definitely possible. And whatever the mind can believe and can conceive and believe, it can achieve, and or your thoughts become things. All of those things are true. Just like you're saying, when you were telling yourself you can make $100,000, you didn't. And then now I'm sure your success is a lot different. And how does that work?
Well, yeah. And I think to that point, like the skill set, the gap that you just described between dreaming or having an idea about what you can do, right? That was the first part of my mindset. Like I literally had convinced myself I wasn't a person that could do that. I wasn't pretty enough. I wasn't tall enough. I wasn't whatever, all of the things I was telling myself, right?
Yep. Negative programming versus positive programming.
Yes, absolutely. And I think one of the things that really helped me turn the corner. So I would say this not only to, even if you've been in real estate for a while and you're not producing as much as you would like to, or you're a career changing professional like I was, the number one thing, and you just hit on it, it is, there's really only two things. And now that I do a lot of coaching, it's really one, mindset, and then two, skill set. That is it. I needed to learn how to be a business owner. And once I switched my mindset to, it's not about how I look. It's not about how tall I am. It's not about the money I did or didn't come from or did or didn't have. Once I started, and Keller Williams, I will say, really helped me start to frame the idea of myself as a real estate agent being a business owner.
Yes.
A business owner. So what does a business owner do? A business owner finds people to speak to. Lead generates. I was like, oh, I can definitely lead generate. Doesn't matter, And then if I want to lead generate at a high level, what skill do I need to lead generate? How do I convert people? How do I open up these conversations? And that it had nothing to do. All of these things that I thought were true about, people this and they fall into situations. No, active business owners make a plan to be successful and they execute on the plan. And I think that right there completely changed, because the first year I was in real estate. So to fast forward the story, I ended up working with these guys. I made more money than I made teaching, but I did not break $100,000. And I realized very early on, and again, for you career transitioning professionals, I was 39 or 40 years old. So it wasn't like I didn't have an idea about the world or hadn't been working with people. There were some skill sets I was coming into the business with. And what I realized very quickly with this team that I was on, and while they did a great job of feeding me, there were so many things that I learned from them. But the main thing is that this is my business. And right now I'm still working for somebody technically because I was on a team. And that wasn't the right fit for me. It is for some people, and it wasn't for me. So when I left, I was with them for a year. And when I left and went to, this is not a pitch for Keller Williams in any type of way, because there are other brokerages that can teach you how to run a business. It just so happens that I went to Keller.
Sure. But I pulled a lot of greatness out of Keller Williams too. And they do.
When I got there and they were like, how are you running your business? And I was like, I don't run my business. I do whatever the people tell me to do. That was the complete game changer for me. It was, now the whole thing was strategic. And I was like, wait a second, if I'm in control of this, what do I need to do differently? And all of a sudden, of course, it led to, wow, I'm not talking to enough people. Lead generation will always be the bane of, and if you're not closing up deals, you're not talking to enough people. That's just how it's
Amen. That's the exact thing that I teach. It's as simple as, and that's what one of my mentors said. If you're not getting the results that you want to have in real estate, then you need to have more conversations to people about real estate. And then I took it further in my coaching development, is for the people that work with me, is that part of that first of all, you have to have about 5 conversations with strangers per week. And that only has to be about 4 days a week. And in that conversation, these words have to come out of your mouth for it to count. Are you or anyone you know interested in buying, selling, or investing in real estate? So as long as you work that into the conversation somehow, with 5 strangers per day, or 20 strangers per week, you'll make more money. You'll make enough money to do anything in any market. I don't care what market you're in, period. Any city, any state. I've done it in multiple cities and states. It's as simple as that. Now, of course, there's a lot more to it, but that's the baseline, simplest way to put it.
Yeah. And I mean, I would definitely, 100% on that. And I think for me too, just like you said, it was how many conversations, but I felt so strapped for time. I was so broke, like
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have any money. And
Yep.
so I was thinking like, if I'm only going to talk to 10 people, I got to nail those 10 people. I can't wishy-washy hope that I'm saying the right thing. So I took the conversation and conversion part of real estate very seriously
Mm-hmm.
because again, it's just looking at the numbers. If I'm only going to talk to 20 people, do I want to convert 2 of those 20 or do I want to convert 19 out of those 20?
Yeah.
Realizing my goal was going to be 20 out of 20, but also, not everybody's a good match for everybody, just like dating, right? So
Right.
I took that very seriously and started really looking at and I didn't want to be salesy. Like I think a lot of people get
Right.
into real estate and I don't want to sound salesy. And I was like, what actually helps me be able to convert these conversations and do this at a high level? Because then I was on a mission. I was like, wow, I literally changed careers,
Mm-hmm.
did not break $100,000. So if I don't do it this year, then I know I'm like not a good real estate agent.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that's actually not what happened. Once I changed my mindset, one, and
Mm-hmm.
then two, made a business plan.
Mm-hmm.
I literally, that second year, I tripled my income, literally
Yeah.
tripled. I went from, 75,000 to almost $200,000 in 1 year,
Amazing.
just from those two things. And then of course, yeah. So
Yeah.
I
Well,
just,
tracking goes a long way. Tracking,
oh man,
planning. I mean, and like vision boards and 411s or like, a tracking, a business plan, especially visual, I like, but both. And that you can have up and see any vision board I've ever made and any like GPS or 411 or whatever anybody would call it, a business plan of whatever sort. When I look at my old ones that I made from the beginning to now, every single thing on there I own it now. Like I've made that much money, or I have that boat, or I've had that boat, or I had that motorcycle, or I had this house here, or whatever. It's crazy how powerful having a plan and being consistent will get you kind of anything you need.
yeah, I think that's the other thing is dreams. They definitely start with there, but not about anything. In addition to that,
Mm-hmm.
you a schedule has to be maintained. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's another, again, for people listening who are career transitioners like myself, or you're not producing at high of a level. So the first question is, one, is your mindset right? Like, do you actually think that these things that you can do it, right? Mm-hmm. Secondly, do you have a plan to get there? And then third is the execution on that. So I can have a plan, a business plan is great, but now it comes down to the more granular, what do you do every single day at 8:00? And that's where I feel, for single people, or people that are doing this by themselves, that
All
part
the
was a
single
little,
ladies, all the single ladies.
about the pair ring.
Ooh.
Talk about that later. Anyway, but sticking to the schedule. So saying, okay, every day from 8:00 until 10:30, that is when I prospect for new clients,
Mm-hmm.
and then executing on that plan. Literally, that's it.
And time blocking.
And time blocking, of course. Yes.
So this is part of the 4 tools that I teach in my coaching company. And one of them is called the perfect daily schedule, whereas we go through and we put together a time blocking schedule for people that works with their lifestyle and their balance. Yes. Everybody's different. So you have to make that, work, but then you have to stick to the schedule. Like if you don't, then you don't get the results.
Yeah.
Or it's less likely anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly it. So I think after and then coming from a teaching background, and you mentioned this in the intro, which I really appreciate, I do care about my own personal development. I care about other people succeeding. And relatively speaking, I haven't been in the game, for 20 years. It's only been 6 years, really 5 or 6 years at this point. Mm-hmm. But even though, so I'm not, one of these top million, I haven't made $1 million in 1 year off of real estate. Mm-hmm. But what I do feel like I want to offer to people and the kind of coaching that I provide is, look, I'm just a couple steps ahead, but those steps that you're making from career transitioning mm-hmm. into a completely different lifestyle that has literally changed my life in so many ways, including buying homes, rental properties, mm-hmm. so much freedom to help family and nieces and nephews be able to give back to organizations that I care about. Mm-hmm. And before I would give like $5 in a year. Now it feels good to be able to give a little bit more than that if I, when Christmas comes around, or Giving Tuesday, or whatever. So it's not just about like, do I make more money now? Yes, I do. But it's about the things at my core, like the values at my core, which are like teaching and training and coaching. I was able to do that very quickly at Keller Williams. And I do appreciate that office. They saw that and were like, hey, can you teach other people how to do this? And I was like, absolutely. The framework is there. I'm passionate about it. And, you know, so sometimes people will be like, well, you haven't been in it that long. Why do you think you can teach other people how to do it? And it's the same thing I say with dating, because I am in the process of developing a dating program for people 35 plus to help up our dating community and the skill set, again, brought to dating. But
love it.
The answer to that is like, not every NBA coach played in the NBA. Doctors do not break their own arms to learn how to fix it, right? Some people, which I feel like, you know, hopefully I still want to develop the skill set, but I feel like I care about making other people better. I care. Yes. This has been so transitional for me, like to think of myself. Like I remember when the day when I had finally broke $100,000 in real estate, and I cried like a baby. I was like, I told myself something that wasn't true for a very long time.
Right.
And I don't want to go back and say I should have, would have, could have.
Right.
But it's just everyone's own individual journey. And my journey was, you know, I was in, you know, and I was by myself. So I was scared to make a move. So then I had to really reframe, like, okay, how do I look at fear now? When I start telling myself I can't do things, why am I doing that? And now it's more just exploratory, like, gosh, well, what else can I do? Like, money can I make in real estate? I don't even think I've like hit the top number yet, you know?
You've unlocked the secret.
Yeah, so we've unlocked the secret.
The secret is just the power of the law of attraction and what you talk about and what you feed your brain, and you can make into reality. And that's the truth of it.
Yeah, with a plan, with an executed plan.
With a plan, yeah, it's not magic, but But also what you were saying about how long you've been doing it, and you hear oftentimes people, it's one of my favorite things to bash on people about, is when you have this maybe super egotistical agent on the other side or something that says, well, I've been doing this for 30 years, whatever it is. So my point is, you know, I went to the top 1% in Las Vegas for real estate sales in a year and a half. And so
that is incredible.
Well, it's more about reps. Well, thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
It is.
It's more about repetitions. So, I mean, I sold a lot of real estate, and I did for the rest of my career.
Right.
And it's more about repetition. And so, I mean, I sold more houses probably in that first year or two than these people that, not everybody. There's some people that have been in it for 30 years that have sold tons of real estate. And that's great. But time is not the only factor. It's more about repetition.
That's the only factor. And I think just that comparison game is so deadly, because you better believe it. When I was sitting in the office making phone calls at 39 or 40 years old and watching a 25-year-old do the same thing, that was part of the mindset, is I had to sit and tell myself, like, wow, this is so embarrassing. I'm 40. Why didn't I figure this out before? Why am I so slow at this? Why didn't I believe in myself? Why? And turning that from, what an incredible opportunity.
Yep.
Because I could literally be still eating lunch at 11:11 from 11:11 to 11:26 every single day. And that's not my story anymore. Yeah. And so it's that comparison game can get so dangerous in entrepreneurship in general, but especially I think in the sales aspect of, oh, how much are you doing? And how much you know what I mean? Like I would sit in that office and be like, if these guys even knew how many tears I have shed over the last 15 years and what an incredible opportunity I feel like I've given myself and how much I'm learning about myself, they'll never know. They don't care. And so to your point, like how you mentioned earlier, like investing yourself in this attraction, like I needed to be around people who believed in me at 39 or 40 years old. And it wasn't the 25-year-old at the office.
Yeah.
You know, that kid was probably looking at being like, I'm glad I'm not in her position and I have a wife and kids and have to change careers, you know, which is, again, it's not a good or a bad. It's really about what do you want to accomplish? And, you know, even at this point, like I still have to stay in that mindset, because am I very proud of myself? Yes, I am. Do I see people producing 3 times as much as me? Yes, I do. And it's like,
I've always had people that produce maybe more than me and do more than me, and that's fine. You know, I did things the way I did things, and I have a comfortable life. I've gotten to a place, you know, I've done a lot of accomplished accomplishments myself, but by no means did I ever like sell the top tier of everything everywhere all at once. I did well, and I was in the top 1%, 5% in different cities, and even at the same time. But I mean, that sounds cool, but it's not that impressive because most people don't sell much real estate anyway, most agents. So my point is that I did well and I enjoyed it, and I liked the competition against like people in my office, not in a negative way, but I just wanted to see myself rise up the list. I like to see myself start here. I like to see I like the adventure. I like the journey. I really do. So I like seeing myself somewhere and just keep going up. And I'm like, wow, I like to see my results. Like, what is it called? There's a book, Dan Sullivan, The Gap in the Gain, I think is what it's called. And they're talking about you should look at your results from behind. I can't remember the right wording of it, but you don't look at your results moving forward or where you're at now compared to what you're going to be or where somebody else is, but you take your results and you look backwards from where you've done it, and then look at all the accomplishments you've made from here to here.
Right.
So I enjoy it, like seeing that, and just doing better, doing a little bit better every day. I always tell people it's not about perfection at all. They're never going to be perfect. It's about just being a little bit better than maybe you were the day before. But you don't have to do that in leaps and bounds and burn yourself out and crash and go better every day. Do something consistently that works with you and your capacity.
Yeah. And that applies to, yes, absolutely. That applies to not only, again, people coming into their career brand new, but also when we start looking at very high producers and people developing teams, and now people have a team of 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15, 20 people. The same strategy applies. Like it's just an application. It's like taking the idea of growth and just applying it to another things. And then other skill sets come into play. Like, how does my leadership need to be changed? Or, what skill do I need to develop in the leadership in order to make my team more effective? How do I communicate with people? Like, it was fine when I was running my own business, but now that I want to bring somebody else on, is there a different skill set in communication? Do I need to be more empathetic? Do I need to be more organized? Do I need to be? And so it's not a personal attack of, wow, you suck at this or whatever. It's like, oh gosh, I'm skill deficit in this area. Right. And there are plenty of resources. If somebody was to say to themselves, I want to be better at nailing the conversation from talking to somebody to a close. That is an identifiable skill set that you can research on the internet. You can come to me. There are a gazillion workshops. Your agency, your society probably addresses things like that well. And it's just starting again to chip away and be like, wow, I want to be better at closing. Cool. I'm going to spend the next 2 months figuring out how to be a better closer. Awesome. I'm going to figure that out at 8:00 every day, from 8 to 8:30 every single day. I'm going to read a book. I'm going to listen to a YouTube channel. I'm going to do something, and I'm going to practice. And those small little steps of just taking one skill at a time will lead to huge changes is really what I feel like I can testify to.
I love that about you, because over the last couple of years where we've talked quite a bit is that you are very dedicated to your schedule and working on the focuses that you've determined to focus on, and you do it like clockwork. And that is like is the essence of becoming more successful in reaching your goals. So kudos to you on that. I've always been impressed that you do that. You're like, no, I can't talk to you at this time, but I can talk to you at this time. I'm like, thank you. That's awesome. That's great.
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
So quickly too, I wanted to ask, so you mentioned, I think you have, or you're developing, or tell me where you're at with your coaching program and services.
Yeah. So I'm just about, Yep. So I'm just about to launch. It's really an audit system. Really, the things that we just talked today for somebody that's a transitioning career professional is really who it's meant for, or an agent who is not producing at the level that they want to. It's going to be a 5-hour online course. You buy the course, you watch it at your own time, and there are PDFs and steps you can take. And, it's a whole just walk through program that you can do at your own time. Along with that, there's going to be, coaching and live events starting to come in 2024, along with the online programs for real estate. And I think too, going through this whole real estate process, and again, being single, what I've noticed is like there are just so many correlations between real estate and dating, which I've also started to document, which is why I'm also coming out with a dating course in 2024 as well, with a
That's cool.
very similar idea of like, hey, if your conversion of second dates, like speaking about men right now, like if you can take somebody out on a date, but you're not good at locking down that second date, let's take a look at it. Or if you're online dating and you're not even getting swipes, or you're not getting these conversations to move forward like you want to, there's a reason, and we can actually break that down and start to get specific, just like we would in a business, and say, wow, my conversion isn't great. So
this is a cool idea. I like that, because first of all, I think it's a moneymaker. I think that people would definitely pay, like, so people that are struggling with that would definitely pay to do it. They'd be like, yes, I could see them wanting that. And then secondly, that you're going through the trouble and the steps to organize that into a useful tool for people to use. So both those things are really cool, I think.
Yeah.
And that's what business is. So a good business is something that people will want, and there's an absolute need for it. And then two, putting it together and making the work to. So that's really cool. I'm excited about that.
And I do appreciate that there's obviously a monetary element to both of those things, but at the core, like my core value is about personal development and coaching.
Yes.
And again, I'm not super far ahead of a lot of people, which is fine with me. But anybody that sees and connects with my story, or like, wow, she's doing that, or even dating, or even real estate, or whatever, I do want to be a resource. And I think one of the things that when I've really started to think about the last 5 or 6 years and how much my life has changed for the better, I think one of the things that I've been able to, again, like strategically work on is staying optimistic about the situation, because real estate is not always optimistic. Markets fluctuate, leads get hard, transactions become difficult, people are hard to work with. And the same thing in dating. It's like, I could sit here and tell you I've been on probably thousands of dates in the last 20 years, and I'm still not in a long-term committed relationship like I'd like to be. So what, I'm just going to give up? No. There's an element of like, and not unrealistically like staying positive, but it's like, if this is the route I've chose with real estate, and whatever obstacles will come in the way, regardless of whether something I created, maybe I wasn't sticking to my schedule like I thought I should, the market's completely shifting, people aren't selling, it's harder for buyers to qualify, all of these things come into play. Now the nitty gritty of like, what do you do? How do I as an individual handle these unfortunate or unpleasant circumstances that come my way for all of us,
Yes.
So again, it's the mindset.
It's being adaptable to changing markets. And then if you're talking about the dating world, it's being I mean, the world changes, the way people communicate, date, all that stuff changes over time.
Yes.
And you have to be able to adapt. And I think what also it comes down to is, you've said it a few times or alluded to it, that this is all about relationship building.
Yes.
It really is. It boils down to connecting with people and building a relationship that either will go forward or it won't.
And starting with self, and really starting with self, looking into what you as an individual want.
Yep.
And then
get that nailed down first so you can move forward with anything.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ding, 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 ding. You got it.
Yeah. Well, I think we've talked about that a little bit.
Yeah, we definitely.
But it's true. I mean, it all starts with you and figuring out what it is that you want to do, having your plan, having your goals set, and then moving forward from there. And here's the other thing is, your goals and all the things that you've planned to do might change mid-plan. And that's okay. That's 100% okay. So people might get themselves beat up or something, or even just stick to a plan to stick to it, which there is some goodness in that too, like pushing through some hardness. But it's not terrible to adapt and change and say, okay, this isn't working, but I do see another way that it could work, and change the plan mid-plan.
Yeah,
it's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah.
And it's a good thing. Like, I think if a person is so stuck, it goes back to the old adage, a lot of roads lead to Rome. And when a business plan is like creating a road, and that's the road that you thought was the best road to get there, but there may be a shortcut. And I don't want to say a shortcut, like, you can like sidewind the hard work, but there may be a different resource to help get you to your goal. And I think what you're saying is, stay flexible of like, yes, execute, but also you're going to get smarter. You're going to be around smarter people. And the culmination of all of those things happening will likely lead to you seeing a better idea or a better in or a better way, which is completely fine. It's a great sign that you're getting better at your craft.
Yeah, 100%. And your business goals might change, or your needs might even change.
Correct.
You're in a different spot now. Like things have worked or haven't worked, and then you're like reevaluate it, and then you can spring forward even further because you've made some subtle adjustments.
Yeah. So with coaching, yes, I have it's going to be called The Road to Your First $200,000 in Real Estate. Again, really targeting, if you're a super high producer, or a team member, I do have some resources coming in 2024 to address, okay, hey, we're at this certain level. Now, how do we audit our business and say, are we breaking down in conversions? Are we breaking down in conversations? Are we breaking down in our team formation? Does my leadership need to improve? There's going to be a whole nother, set of videos and online trainings and live events happening in 2024 related to that. But again, my heart right now is really with people who are in a similar situation to myself, where you're starting with real estate, you want to make this happen, especially for career transitioning professionals at any age. You can, careers can transition at 30 or 35. I just happen to be a little bit older. And my plea and the thing that I want everyone to know is like, it's just not too late. It is not too late. It took some time. I also, I think that's the thing. Everybody will look and be like, oh, well, it's been, 5 or 6 years. Yeah, 5 or 6 years. And that first year, I also didn't break $100,000, but I didn't give up. So if you're in that place of like, how do I actually make this happen? This is where the course, The Road to Your First $200,000 is going to come into play. It's going to help you audit your business, starting with lead generation, going all the way through your conversations with, examples and stories and PDFs. And again, ways for that person to say, where am I breaking down? Just because you're not reaching your goals does not mean you're a crappy real estate agent. It probably means that there's somewhere in your business plan that fell short. And it's just like, oh, now I see it. I can fix it. Just like a car. Oh, the engine's not great. Great. Let's fix that in the car. I'll keep running.
Yeah, I love it. And that's why, and everybody's different, but I think coaches are so beneficial. I have a coach and it's somebody that can be like, hey, have you thought about this? Or have you looked at this? And let's look at these key points. So when I'm coaching people, we have 4 key points. And if we're not getting the goals that we've set out to get together, we just look at the parts, the different sections. Okay, let's look at this part. Okay, well, you're doing this part. This part looks good. Yeah. And find the breakdown. Find the breakdown in the system.
Find the breakdown.
And then you address it.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up about a coach. That is something I think also, I didn't have a coach the first year, and I have had a coach ever since. And I think to your point, the accountability, but I think too, just somebody outside the situation helping to realize.
Even a sounding board.
Yeah. And hey, you're not doing terrible, or yeah, you are doing terrible, or whatever. Yeah. So I'm glad to hear that you have a coach. Yeah, I do too. And they're very beneficial, but it takes some time. Like, I think a lot of people, again, this is like, the red light, green light, like, can you afford a coach right now? No. So if you can't afford a coach right now, programs like you and I offer that are more online based, a one-time purchase that you can start to get there. But at the end of the day, this is where it comes down to like, okay, my goal next year is to have a coach. What do I need to do between now and then to be able to afford, whatever that cost is going to be, $5,000 a year, let's say, to be able to make myself better and invest in myself.
Yeah. And that could be a part of the plan we talked about.
Absolutely.
So maybe that doesn't fit in your plan right now, or a certain coaching style or method or whatever. And you can set a plan, start with what you can, and move up from there. And then one easy one is watching shows like this. And there are other shows out there. Being involved in that and listening to other agents around the country, whatever it is you can tap into to get the knowledge to be able to move forward and set your plan and do all the things. So, but this stuff's free.
Yeah, that's such a great point. Yeah.
Well, cool.
Well, thank you for doing that, by the way, too.
For what's that now?
No, thanks for starting it. Thanks for starting a place for people, a resource for people. That's awesome.
I'm pumped about it. And I started it with, I've kind of wanted to do it a long time. I don't know, really. It's funny how it's worked out because I enjoy it so much. That's the thing. So these shows where we do interview style and we talk about certain skills and things like that is super fun. And then the other one is more about local markets and what the data is and what the market looks like. I think both of those are super helpful for people, both clients and or agents alike. And so it's really fun for me. So I'm lucky to know so many people out there that are willing to come on the show and share their knowledge and expertise like you. And, I'm pumped and just grateful to have you as a friend and colleague.
Oh, me too. Thank you so much. Yeah, for
Yeah.
your vision and help. Yeah, totally. It's awesome.
So maybe just one quick recap from you on what you'd like people to kind of leave with today as final thoughts.
Yeah, the final thought is that, and this is going to sound cliche maybe, but you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
I am not anything special in terms of, background, whatever. I wouldn't say, a ton of opportunities. Again, I think, the summary would be that you as an individual have so much potential. And you have so much influence and power in the things that you choose to want to do that. Not everybody wants to be a business owner. That's totally, we need all kinds to make this world go around and to have it be influential to as many people as possible. Like I will definitely reach and resonate with a certain group of people, but you also will resonate with a completely separate group of people. And so the big take home is, regardless of whether it's real estate, a personal relationship, a career change, something that you're doing, I want to empower people with the idea that it can be done. And it does take some time and it does take some strategy. But with those two things, you can absolutely start making small changes to be the best version of yourself that you can absolutely be. And giving all of us the grace to still work on that. I'm not my best version yet. Still working on it. So I will look to people who I feel like are, pulling me in a better direction or somewhere that I want to go. And I would like to help people where I have been already, bring them to this position so they can also influence those around them to be the best that they can be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. And I do this a lot and I forget to prepare people, but the people that come on my show are typically the people that would be okay with clients, consumers out there, anybody that wants to buy or sell a house, or agents out there can reach out to you probably and pick your brain and get some advice on maybe what some steps are to do and troubleshoot or think about, their situation with you. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely, So there's two resources, mostly Instagram, I would say. There's attached Facebook pages as well. But if you're a consumer, if you're a buyer or you're a seller and you're looking to buy or sell and you would like to do that with me, Real Estate Margo on Instagram or Real Estate Margo LV on Facebook. So that's going to be the main place for you. That's where I talk about the market. You can see, yes, it's down here, Real Estate Margo.
Yeah, down at the bottom. Yep.
Yeah. And just recently, so there's not very many followers on this page yet, so please go like and follow. But I do have a separate Instagram page dedicated just for agents now. Okay. And it's called Agent Coach Margo. So at Agent Coach Margo. And this is where we talk about how you have better conversations, all free advice. There's nothing there. It's only how do you have conversations with sellers? How do you move past closings? What are things you should think about? It's everything from an agent's perspective and starting to deal with clients and things that I have found helpful to push those relationships and move to more closings. So Real Estate Margo is really for the general public. If you want to buy or sell with me, I'm certainly happy to do that and have consultations. Very traditional. Yes, come work with me. I got you. And then I think that Instagram page was I was getting a lot of questions from agents. Like, how did you get this client? How did you, just little DMs here and there. And I was like, wow, I think I need a place where I can just devote some time and effort and energy to recording videos just for agents if they want to be there. So that's what Agent Coach Margo is. So it's Real Estate Margo and Agent Coach Margo.
I love it. There's a place for both of those. So, and there's an audience for both.
Yeah, they're different. Buyers and sellers don't really want to hear conversations agents are having with each other all the time.
Not necessarily. They're like, yeah, whatever, sounds good.
They want to know what's relevant.
You make magic money. Good for you.
Yeah, exactly. No. Yeah, exactly. So,
I appreciate you being on the show. I have a lot of new stuff too that I'd love to show you sometime. I have some cool new developments since the last time we talked. Okay. And they're kind of visual. So I'd love to set up a call with you and chat about it. Either way, it was lovely to have you on as usual. Always great to talk to you, that is. And thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You bet. And for all of you out there watching, thank you for coming to the show today. This is the 21st episode of Sharpen the Saw. That makes 42 episodes total. Who's this pupper?
The Adventures of Paige the Puppy.
The Adventures of Paige the Puppy?
This is my dog.
That's cool. Did you see my dog back here?
No.
This whole time sitting on the couch? Right there. She looks dead. She's sleeping though.
Is it that lighter colored fur thing?
Yeah, right here.
Oh, is she tiny? Is your dog tiny?
She's 4 pounds, I think.
Oh, this dog is like 9 pounds. So
she really looks like she's dead.
That is so cute. No, I saw that. I thought you were talking about the big gray thing. I was like, that is a big dog. But
she's breathing.
Ah.
With her tongue out. She had all of her teeth removed. So
she looked like this. Is she this kind of a dog?
No, she's a micro Yorkie. What's he?
Yeah, she's a Yorkie.
Or she?
She's supposed to be. Yeah, she's like a Yorkie mix, but
I have a Yorkie mix too. That's more her size. Well, actually, he's fatter than her, and he is a Yorkie Shih Tzu. So.
Oh yeah, but that little thing is only 4 pounds behind you.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, puppy.
Then we have a 120-pound dog, and we have a 70-pound dog too. We have 4 dogs.
Oh,
I'll have to tell you about the
yeah, we'll have to talk about that. Yeah,
the new farm we're coming up with too. We're closed on a farm in 6 days.
Oh my god!
A little farm, like an animal farm. I'll tell you more about it. Let's schedule a call soon.
Yeah, we'll schedule a call, definitely. Okay, cool. Thanks so much for having me. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Ooh, we got the outro music now.